Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. To introduce myself for those of you who are starting to join us here, my name is Constable Rowena Price, and I'm the 11 Division Community Liaison Officer. So I just want to thank everybody for coming to the 11 Division virtual community meeting this evening. As you know, the topics are going to be residential and commercial break-in enters and vehicle thefts. We have received all of the questions that were submitted during registration. And we'll be having the question and answer period for the last half an hour of the presentation, starting around 8 o'clock, give or take, for the late start. So we'll go ahead and get started. Our expert speakers are going to be Constable Michael Wood from Crime Prevention, Detective Constable Aaron Korslick from our 11 Division CIB, which is our Criminal Investigations Unit, and Gerald Adad from Safe City, Mississauga. He's our neighborhood service manager. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just to let everybody know, as a reminder, everything is being video and audio recorded and may be used by Peel Regional Police at a later date. I just want to thank everybody for coming. I know there's lots of counselors, community members, residents, stakeholders that have made time to join us tonight, so we appreciate you coming. Aside from that, any unanswered questions that we don't get to as part of this presentation, you can feel free to email me directly, and I'll leave that email contact just in the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see a chat option. And just a reminder, if you are private messaging people, just make sure you don't click everyone. Other than that, we'll go ahead and get started. Superintendent Kennedy from 11 Division was hoping to come on tonight and do some opening remarks. He's had some technical difficulties and unfortunately is very sad that he's unable to make it. So just on his behalf, I wanted to welcome everybody. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started here. So Wood, if you wanted to start first.
Thanks, Constable Price. Again, my name is Constable Michael Wood. I work for Peel Regional Police Crime Prevention Services. So I've been a member of Crime Prevention Services for probably a little over 3 years now. Been an officer for going on to 17 years. And what I do in this unit right now, it's a regional unit. And I used to work a lot of my career at 11 Division, so I'm familiar with the area. But in this area, I provide a lot of education, a lot of information to community members. You may have seen me out there at community events with a booth under the crime prevention booth, as well as, I don't know, if you're on Twitter, you may have seen some of my videos out there. It's Crime Prevention Week and month. November this past month and the beginning of November, Crime Prevention Week. So we do a lot of videos, and you can see some on YouTube as well, and on Twitter, on Instagram, on the Peel Police, and I'll give you the kind of the links to that as well. So a lot of the information that I'm providing here today is on the tips and kind of strategies are online, and I'll kind of show everybody where to find those as well if you're not familiar with that. So I'll get right into it. I'll just share my screen here. So today we're going to be talking. I'm personally going to be talking about break and enters, more focusing on residential, and giving a little bit of some stats that were provided by the 11 Division crime analyst, and some figures in relation to that, and then some tips and tricks and how to protect yourself and how to protect your home in relation to break and enters. And I know my colleague Detective Korslick will be speaking about auto theft and things pertaining to that. So this is straight from the website. If you haven't been there before, please check it out, peelpolice.ca. When it's in the section in the community, you can get this under crime statistics and maps. The information's there. It'll give you a couple different statistics over the past couple of years of different criminality within our region, so Mississauga and Brampton, which we police. And as we can see here, break and enters from January 1st until October 31st. So it doesn't have November, usually done quarterly. 1,774 in this past year. Now that includes residential and commercial break and enters, and I'll focus the rest of the stats on residential break and enters. So as you can see here, you can see the map there. That's 11 Division. So everything south of the 407 and going to be west of here, Ontario. They kind of changed the zones maybe about 3 years ago, and now 11 Division Police is up to here, Ontario. Not to say that other divisions are getting policed. Well, depending on where resources needed, officers may be redirected there. But what you can see there, if you see it, it's almost like it has the flu there. It's got a bunch of different dots on it. But that is the break and enters that have occurred within the past year, residential break and enters. So there were 227 residential break and enters within 11 Division from January to November. So you have that large number, and 227 were residential break and enters. And those also include garages, sheds, and apartment storages, not to mention condo units and apartments as well. So this information is transparent. It's right on our website. If you go to peoplepolice.ca, it's under the crime mapping tool. But if you were to go again, it's the far right in the community drop down, crime statistics and maps. You'll see on that, it'll get you to another page there. You'll just click on the crime mapping tool. This has been redeveloped and it's been changed. Some of you may be familiar with the old crime mapping tool, which gave you the options of 7 different types of criminality. And you can search for the last 7 days and last 30 days. This is got far more information on it now. So you can search up to 1 year, the past 12 months, if you're curious as to what's going on in your particular community, within being the city of Mississauga or Brampton, wherever you may live, or a certain, want to zoom into your street, and you can see what's going on there. And pretty easy enough to search the date. Just when you're using it, just kind of click this little toggle button so that you wanted the program to say that's what you're searching. And I had selected break and enters. And you can also select hotspots where a lot of them are being concentrated. So definitely please check that out at peoplepolice.ca under the crime mapping tool. I won't take too much time on that just because everybody can do that at their freedom. So when it comes to 11 Division, when is it happening? It's happening every day of the week, okay? Sunday through Saturday. Thursday had seen a slight increase at 17%, but they're fairly consistent throughout the week as to when break and enters happen. The method of entry, you can see there from the graph, forced entry is the significant cause of how these individuals are getting into the residences. Now, it's whether it's a door kick or a shouldering to the door, some sort of forced entry into the premise. As you can see there's other ways that they're getting in, whether it be prying, picking a lock, smashing a window, and those are significantly less. But the key thing that we've seen, 49%, and it's usually around 50% throughout the years. It's consistent where they're going through the front door. Now, as you can see here too, the times of days. Now, from midnight until about 4 a.m. Seems to be a high number. That also includes like garages, sheds, and apartments. So not necessarily the house itself, but it does include it sometimes as well. But between the hours of noon and 4 o'clock, that's you can see the increase during that time. Because when it comes to break and enters, it's a crime of opportunity. Okay, just like many other crimes, if you're talking about car hopping. Aaron will talk a little bit about auto theft. If the opportunity is there, they're going to try to utilize it, right? So, and I'll talk about tips and tricks and how to reduce that opportunity. And crime prevention, those of you who've been a part of some of our community meetings before, or if have seen a presentation that I've done before, I talk about the crime triangle, okay? There's 3 sides to the triangle. There's that criminal desire. There's always going to be somebody who wants to, take advantage of somebody, steal from somebody. There's going to be a target, whether that be a vehicle, whether it be a house, whether it be a person, and there's an opportunity. So as a citizen, your role is to try to reduce that opportunity, or make an effort to try to reduce that opportunity that a criminal won't have that desire for that particular target. In different ways, we'll talk about that. So if some of you have seen our home security basic fact cards, they're located in any division. If you were to go to a division, you can pick up that literature there. A lot of the information is on our website. So again, I'm going to direct you there again. please check out peoplepolice.ca for further information if you're looking for it. And tons of videos out there too that over the years that we've produced. Now, when it comes to home security, simple things like keeping your residence visible. Now, some of us like, those big high fences because we want our privacy, nice, trees to make it look aesthetically pleasing. However, these cause great opportunity for criminals as well. They're looking for these particular homes which are not visible to the neighbors because that reduces clear sight lines. And what I do in my unit is crime prevention through environmental design. So it's a multidisciplinary approach of different ways to make a premise or a facility safer. And something as simple as having natural surveillance, somebody that can see the front door, like your neighbor can see the front door. As you can see here in the picture on the side, it's depicting something great. Like you can see the front door, you can see the front windows. Not a big fan of that tree on the side because if it becomes overgrown, it reduces visibility. But the one below it there, it significantly impedes any sort of natural surveillance where neighbors can't see if there's some sort of suspicious activity that's happening there, right? You always want to make your house or your residence look lived in. If you happen to be traveling, especially in the wintertime now, you can see one of these residents that unfortunately was a victim of a break and enter. It's a little small probably on your screen, but two cars are buried in a couple feet of snow and there's no footprints or anything like that, so it's a clear indication that nobody's been in and out of the house. Possibly it's been unoccupied for a while. It's definitely an opportunity that a criminal can break into. Other things like leaving papers outside, whether it be the Mississauga News or any flyers that you may get, door hangers or anything, you definitely want to be removing those on a consistent basis because those piling up. Other things like leaving your lawn unmanicured and outgrowing it to a foot high grass, which most people don't, but it tends to appear that nobody's looking after the house or there's an opportunity for a criminal that they're not going to be caught. They're looking for these cues, so in hopes that nobody's home. Oftentimes with break and enters, it's not a matter of they don't want to encounter anybody when they're home. And I'm going to talk about a little aside here where if you during those times that I showed you in the graph where, those opportunistic times, Mississauga, we're a bedroom community, right? So work during the day, we come home at night, okay? Sleeping at night. So during the day, if we're away from home, during COVID, it was a different story where it was a little bit of an anomaly where a lot of us were working from home. Now, a lot of us are back in the office or place of employment, or out and about during the day. And at which point it creates an opportunity. So oftentimes these individuals who are doing break and enters will probe the residence. What they'll do, they'll knock on the door. You know what? Wait a minute or two, nobody answers. Bang even harder. Nobody answers. And that's when they're going to do the front door kick, the shoulder in, because there's an opportunity there and they believe that nobody's home. If you happen to be home, if you hear a knock at the door, a recommendation or kind of option to consider is definitely acknowledge it. Not telling you to open the door. You don't have to open the door for everybody, but oftentimes you can talk through the door. Maybe there's some of you may have those newer doorbells, the video doorbells that you can communicate through a window, a side window or something like that. Just acknowledge it, right? Because if these people doing break and enters believe that there's somebody home, there's less of an opportunity for them, and there's more of a risk that they can be caught because somebody can contact police, right, or contact authorities to make them aware of that, right? So definitely in a case where somebody knocks at the door, acknowledge it, and just the tips I talked about. Other tricks as well is kind of fortifying that door. Some doors come with very you manufacture screws in the hinges as well as the latch plates. You can see on the bottom here section here, some of the latch plates where that tongue goes in from the door and the deadbolt are pretty small, only about maybe 2 inches tall max kind of thing. And the screws that are provided are only about 1 inch long, and that's only going into the frame of the door. What you want to ensure is that both your hinges and your latch plates, you can see there in the bottom middle there, have significantly long screws, so at least 2.5 inches, maybe to 3.5 inches, that it goes through the frame of the door into the frame of the house. So your 6x6s that are, that are holding the door. Sorry, not 2x6s that are holding the door. You want to get that just to beef it up a bit. You can purchase these extended latch plates at local hardware stores or big box stores. So they're all over the place. So for a few extra dollars, at least you can fortify it a little bit more. Not to say it's the be all and end all. It's going to prevent somebody from breaking in. It'll cause them to make more effort. More efforts, more time. More efforts, more noise. So the risk of them being caught. Okay. Ensure that you're using good deadbolts. A good suggestion too. If you happen to have like a side window right beside the door, it possibly could be smashed. Or if you have those little square, small windows, one smash of that door is for somebody to reach in and play with that toggle lock to unlock the door. It's pretty easy. The small little window may not cause as much noise and as much, somebody from across the street may not notice it as much. As smashing the door. So if they have that opportunity, they may do that. But with that, having a double keyed lock, so a deadbolt that you need a key from both the inside and outside, I know it may be an inconvenience when you're trying to get in and out of your own house. However, it does reduce the opportunity for somebody to kind of smash a window and reach in and unlock the door themselves. You want to use secondary locking devices too when it comes to back patio doors. So if you're even if you're in a condo building, a condo apartment where you have those patio doors, good option is to get one of these security bars. This one here that's depicted kind of folds up. You have to install it and screw it into the frame, but it will fold up when you're not, you want to open the door. Some people use a hockey stick at the bottom, a piece of wood. That is sufficient enough. But when it comes over time, if that door is out of adjustment, there's potential that it could rock and actually be lifted out of place. So ensure that your sliding glass doors are properly adjusted with the screws at the bottom. And then with your property too, keep the gates closed and locked too, so people can't just walk onto your property if you do happen to have those. So other things too, when it comes to, we have a program here with Peel Regional Police called Project Identification. The information is on our website as well, but just a brief kind of summary of it. It's if you were to etch your personal belongings, whether it be your electronics, your laptops, your TVs, sometimes jewelry as well, you can engrave. We recommend like the driver's license number. However, I know it's not possible sometimes on, rings and stuff like that. There's other avenues in which to put there. But then that information is then provided to Peel Regional Police. So if any time it does happen to get stolen and if it gets recovered, we have a better way of finding that particular owner to that piece of property. So that's project identification. It's on the website too, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But when it comes to valuables within the home, do not keep it in your top drawer of your dresser in your master bedroom. That is the first place these burglars are going to. They're breaking into your home. They're running right up to the master bedroom. It's not like they're gently, removing your clothes from the from the drawers and placing them neatly. They're ripping apart everything. Drawers, going through closets. Unfortunately, if somebody's been a victim of a break and enter before, it's a horrible feeling because somebody that you don't know has been in your home through your stuff. It's a terrible feeling. But what you want to do, the fact that if you have heirlooms or money or jewelry, you don't want to be leaving it in places where, in a closet where it's easily noticed by a criminal because they're going to be going there, or in the top drawer. So definitely you want to place them or hide them in unconventional places. I'm not going to give you different suggestions because if anybody's on here that is invited to the public that may be doing B&Es, they may be learning something. So I'm not giving them that information. So just think of different ways where you think you might be able to hide it without them going. So like I said, bedrooms and master bedrooms and closets is a typical location which they will attend. And they'll be in and out in, less than a minute, right? So they won't spend a lot of time there looking for stuff. So they want to get in and out as quick as possible. When it comes to vehicles, I know Detective Korslick will talk about this a little bit further. If you have the opportunity, park your vehicle in a garage, and then always keep your vehicle locked while it's on the driveway. Because if they're not looking to steal the vehicle itself, they may be looking just to steal what's in the vehicle. And again, that's a crime of opportunity where they'll go from car to car to car to try to steal belongings or money or sunglasses, GPSs, even garage door openers for a later time that they can do a B&E. So you don't want to leave those items in there, any valuables. You can also install different security, many different security options when it comes to windows. This is just an example of just a simple security lock you can put on the frame of the window, so it's far more difficult for somebody to open it from the outside if they remove the screen. And you want to remove any sort of crank handles if you have that particular option on your window. Uh, I think that's nice to do to have install, alarm system. It can be pretty costly. The next slide we'll talk about video surveillance. But alarm system's good. But if you're going to do that, install audible and visual sirens and strobe lights, so that if your siren's going off outside, if you live in a community, police or even individuals may not know exactly where it's coming from. But if you have the audible, if you have the light, the strobe light on the outside, it's a far more clear indication as to where that alarm is coming from, if so happens it was activated. Thing two, some communities or some individuals, they want to save energy, right? So, and I can completely understand that. But also, what this does in the darkness, it does create an opportunity for criminals to, commit their crimes in the shadows, right? So, to have, if you don't want your lights on all night long, good option to consider is getting motion detection lights. So when somebody comes by, the infrared will recognize them, turn on that light. So whether it be floodlights or any sort of exterior lighting, you want to have lights so that it's more of the community members, your neighbors will be able to see potentially what's going on. Even with the motion sensors too, that activation of the light will cause a little bit of attention, right? So if somebody happens to be outside during that time, maybe one of your neighbors, all of a sudden your light gets tripped. It could be a raccoon or a skunk these days, are all over the place. But definitely it could be somebody potentially for some sort of criminality there. So good option to consider is getting the motion sensor lights. So other measures and more high security measures, if you will, is there's different products online, or sorry, out there now that you can place on your windows, different types of film that it won't necessarily prevent the damage to the window, but it essentially laminates it where they won't be easily be able to break a window and get through that particular area. So it keeps everything together, and you can see the depiction there on the top right, where he's using a crowbar to smash. It's not smashing the window; it's not shattering. It is causing a lot of damage. It will need to be replaced, but at least they're not able to enter in. And the more noise, the more effort that it causes, they're not going to be there all day trying to break in, because there's more of a risk that police will be notified. Other options too, bars and on the exterior and interior. However, if it's any sort of egress, I know if it's like a basement apartment or something like that, you got to ensure that there's enough egress in case of an emergency, right? So that's another factor that has to be weighed out. But surveillance cameras, many different ones on the market. I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm not going to try to explain different ones, as well as I'm not going to advertise specific ones. But a great option is to have a video surveillance. The comment there, high security measures themselves cannot be expected to discourage or determine offenders, because things still happen, and we do catch it on video surveillance. But having no video surveillance, it reduces the evidence that's able to be provided to police. Having that video surveillance could be a deterrent, but it also creates great evidence to police if you have good quality video surveillance. Now, it may not necessarily capture somebody's facial features if they're wearing a mask, but clothing too. Criminal investigations officers, our break and enter unit that I spoke with a little bit earlier, they need video surveillance to, in order to get some suspect information to kind of link different occurrences together. Because oftentimes it's not necessarily, somebody from the neighborhood that's doing break and enters. Oftentimes it's going to be organized groups that are working all over the GTA. They're organized. They're moving from different locations to different locations, and they know what they're doing. They're professionals in their trade, unfortunately. But it's good to have that video surveillance. And what can be done with that is that it could be provided to police. Now, there's a new program called avoidance.com that Peel Police are using. Now, it's far easier than what it used to be before, where an officer would have to wait, or you'd have to download it onto, or burn it on a CD or get it on a USB stick, and they have to wait for somebody to pick it up. Now, an investigator can send you an email, a secured link, or a text message in which you could send the video virtually, and that will be able to be viewed by investigators to assist with the investigation or the in relation to the break and enter. So many different options when it comes to doorbell cameras. If you have it, if you want to install it yourself, or you have a private company that installs it and monitors it as well. So there's varying factors of cost if you want to put into it. But with any of the options you put in, you want to ensure that they're not easily tampered with. So you don't want to have a camera that's of eye height if you're if it's really visible, because unfortunately somebody can just move it out of the way. Doorbell camera, obviously, it's right there, but what I'm talking about is more the ones on the garages, because I've seen some video where unfortunately somebody has just kind of moved the camera out of the way. So you want to have it in locations where it's not easily tampered with. Same thing with the lights as well. I'm not sure if anybody has done one of these before, but a home security challenge. If you're interested in getting a copy of this, Rowena will provide you with her email address. And all it is just, just giving yourself a score, rating yourself and rating your home or apartment. Some of these are more for single family dwellings, but it still can be applied to apartments and condos, to think outside the box, right? So to think about what's going on outside your home. Are people able to view your residence from the outside? It talks about doors. Are the doors locked? I talked about the screws and the hinges. Talks about sliding doors, whether they're locked or you have a device in there, a secondary locking device. Other things, your garage door. Do you keep your garage door locked? Is the side door locked? So definitely something to look into. It's probably difficult to see, unfortunately, on the screen itself, but it's 8.5 by 11 sheet, double-sided, that we can email out to you if you'd like one, and it just gives you a kind of an idea of where you rate and in your home security. Big thing, I'm not sure if you've seen on again on our Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. So Peel Police this was more of a program that started down in the States and kind of integrating it up here in Peel, but it's the 9 p.m. routine. Some of us may remember, 11 o'clock when, it'd be that little quick commercial, 11 o'clock, where your children are, right? So it's 9 o'clock. It's time to lock everything up to ensure that, for your is more directed towards vehicles, but home security as well. Ensure that your vehicle's either in the garage, it's locked, there's no valuables in there, your keys are secured, either in a Faraday in a box, so there's no option for a relay theft, and I won't go too much into that. There's other ways that criminals are focusing on stealing vehicles, and Detective Korslick will discuss that a bit. But definitely the 9 p.m. routine, kind of like before going to bed, ensuring everything's secure, doors, windows. If you have to set a security alarm system, if you want to turn your lights on, but definitely look into that. I'm not going to go too much into this, but I know we have Gerald here. Lucky enough to have him on the call here as well. So he'll discuss. And Mississauga is fortunate to have a neighborhood watch. Many different neighborhood watch team leads out there in different communities. You may be a part of one as well. So you can see the benefits of that, just the community togetherness it can bring as well. But I'll let him discuss that. An important thing too when it comes to home security or just neighbor security is knowing your neighbors. Okay, knowing who lives beside you. You may not all like your neighbors, right? So we do get complaints about neighbor complaints, and but that's not always the case. Most people in the community get along, but it's good to know your neighbors and have some contact information from them as well. and be willing to give that out if you're comfortable in doing that. Because if something were to happen, say if you're backed onto another residence, and you know the street name, it's a good thing to know that house number so that you can, if you were to call police because you see somebody breaking in, you could easily call them. Yeah, that's 64 Mississauga Road. Just giving an example. Like it's I don't know who lives there, if anybody lives there, but at least knowing what your neighbors are, what maybe the house number is, even in the one that's neighbored behind you or in front of you as well. So further information, please check out peelpolice.ca. I'll quickly go through that as well to show you kind of the example of what we have online. But if a break and enter happens and it's happening right away, you're inside the house, somebody's forcing the door open, that's a 911 call. Okay. Any crime in progress, any emergency, that's a 911 call. Okay. We expect that you call 911. If something's happened or you're not sure, there's evidence to believe that there was a break and enter. The door is either ajar and there's damage to it, it's busted open. There's nobody inside the house. There's no evidence to suggest that somebody is still there. That'd be a non-emergency call. So a call for service where an officer would tend at a later time. We recommend that if this does happen, if you do encounter a break and enter at your residence or at your place of business, don't touch anything. We don't want you to go in because there's a potential risk of you contaminating evidence. If there's an opportunity to get a fingerprint, get a footprint from our forensic identification officers, it's better that nothing's compromised. Because if you start walking through the house, start putting things away, there's less likely that that evidence will still be there. But please check us out. Many different avenues. If you want to take a look, and I do suggest that you take a look at PRP Crime Prev. That's Peel Police Crime Prevention Services, Twitter. Even if you don't have Twitter, if you're not a social media person, it's a good thing to have. Even before I got in this unit, I had Twitter just to get immediate updates. Twitter's more of a kind of a happening now or just happened event, whereas Facebook, it could be it happened weeks ago or somebody's posting something, a comment. Even Instagram too is more pictures, but Twitter gives you more up-to-date information. But definitely check out our the YouTube channel. A lot of different information on there in relation to different videos of crime prevention tips and safety strategies, as well as Peel Police reposts a lot of stuff on Instagram and also Facebook too. If you're into TikTok, I know TikTok's a big thing now, and one of the 11 division officers is posting different safety tips on there. So please take a look at that, and Peel Police is on there. So I'm gonna stop sharing for a sec. Just gonna, sorry, and you know what? I do apologize to my my ASL interpreters if I've gone too fast. I kind of apologized earlier, but I tend to try to get through the timing appropriately. I want to ensure that they can get everything. Sorry, one sec, guys.
And just while Wood's just looking for stuff over there, for anybody who's just joined us, we've just had Constable Michael Wood do his presentation from crime prevention. And next up will be Gerald Adad from Safe City, Mississauga. We do have 2 ASL interpreters. If you do need them, you can locate them at the top just by pressing the arrows while Mike or Constable Michael Wood shares his screens. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to the website again, where if you go to Peel Police website, if you go to drop down in the community, and then when I talked about the crime statistics and map, you get that mapping tool. It's going to be that location there, that crime statistics and maps. But also too, when it comes to different safety tips and strategies, will be under safety tips, and then protecting yourself or your property. And then that brings you to the screen right here. So when I talked about home safety, a couple different videos out there, a couple different things I talked about, but definitely a wealth of knowledge when it comes to many different types of criminality, how to protect yourself when it comes to auto crime, carjackings, home safety, and again that operation identification, what I talked about of etching your belongings. There's a little bit of information in there, but you can always reach out to myself if you're looking for more information on that. So thanks very much for listening. And I know we're going to get to some questions at the end, but I'll pass it on over to Gerald now.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gerald Haddad. I am the Neighborhood Services Manager for Safe City, Mississauga, and I'm going to be talking about how to start a neighborhood watch in your community. Big preemptive thank you to the ASL interpreters. This is my first time presenting with ASL interpreters, and I talk fast too, so apologies in advance. Big thank you in advance. And, hope I don't give you guys too much of a hard time. So just before I go into the specifics of our watch programs, I just want to give a quick overview of Safe City Mississauga. So Safe City Mississauga is your leading crime prevention agency, and we were founded by the city in 1992, and we're tasked with providing Mississauga with crime prevention programs like Neighborhood Watch and Business Watch as well, all at no cost and in partnership with the city and Peel Regional Police. I'm going to be talking primarily about Neighborhood Watch, but the activation process and everything still applies. So if we have any business owners in tonight's presentation, this still applies to you if you would like to start a business watching your community as well. But the main purpose of my presentation today is to talk a bit about what the program entails and how you can get that started in your community. But before I get into that, I always do like to clear up what the watch programs are not. It is not quite an excuse to spy on each other. So as part of the watch program, we want people to be keeping an eye out on each other, but we still want people to be considerate of each other and each other's privacy. So don't quite overdo it like the couple in the photo on the right there. And the second misconception I'd like to clear up, and arguably the most important one, is it's not an invitation to be a volunteer police officer. So there are no physical patrols involved in our neighborhood watch program. We don't want anyone getting hurt or getting engaged in anything that might get them, themselves, their friends, family, etc., in any kind of danger. So no spying and no vigilantism as part of our neighborhood watch program. So what are the expectations of our neighborhood watch program and our watch members? So there are three main responsibilities. And the first is observing and reporting. So you've probably heard expressions like eyes on the street, or if you see something. This is core to the neighborhood watch program. We want our residents to be sharing the things that they've been seeing, whether that's crime or suspicious activity. Of course, we want them to share that with Peel Regional Police so that they can build their investigations, allocate resources, etc. But we also want them to share that information with the rest of the neighborhood so that everyone else knows what's going on. They can be alert and they can be proactive in their own crime prevention measures. So a big part of what we do is connecting communities as well under the Neighborhood Watch banner. So once our neighborhood watch members know what's going on in their community, it's our job as Safe City Mississauga to provide them with a relevant crime prevention education so that they know what to do to reduce the risks even further. So as part of the neighborhood watch program, we'll teach our residents about home security, vehicle security, crime prevention through environmental design, and any other topics that might be relevant to the community or of interest to our neighborhood watch members, so that when you do receive news of something that's been going on in your community, you'll be adequately prepared to prevent that from happening further. Our goal with this program is to make sure that crime prevention is not just the responsibility of Peel Police and Safe City Mississauga, but every individual resident in Mississauga as well. And lastly, it's a community engagement opportunity. So as Constable Wood said, we want to connect our neighbors together so that you know who's familiar and who's unfamiliar in your community. You know that you can rely on each other to look out for each other, look out for each other's properties when you're away for some period of time. Look out for each other's packages as well. I know everyone's going to be doing online Christmas shopping these days, and so porch pirates are going to be a thing to look out for. So it's good to build those friendships and relationships with each other so that you know that you're being looked out for in your own community. Our program is all virtually available as well. We do have a virtual portal for the Neighborhood Watch program, and that's where you'll be able to find our library of educational content, whether that's fact sheets, monthly bulletins, and even videos as well. We also provide a communication platform so that you can share information amongst your individual neighborhood watch and stay up to date as to what's been going on in your community. So what are the benefits of a neighborhood watch program? Well, you'll get that free crime prevention training from Safe City Mississauga and access to our portal. We'll make sure that signage is installed in your community by the city to have that extra layer of deterrence. provide crime prevention through environmental design support to all neighborhood watches. And we also make sure to bridge that gap between the community at large and relevant agencies that might be of service to communities as it pertains to their ability to improve community safety and well-being. So if there are concerns with crime in the area, and let's say you want to organize an informal town hall with myself and Constable Price, this is something we've done quite a bit too. Is we'll come down to a neighborhood, have an informal discussion on someone's driveway, and just let people ask us questions about local crime issues and how we can prevent them further. So whoever those agencies are that you want to connect with, whether that's Peel Regional Police, whether that's the city to talk about municipal concerns that we can improve to reduce the risk of crime occurring in your community, Safe City Mississauga is here to help bridge that gap. As we discussed before, it's a great way to create safer and more connected communities, get to know neighbors that you may not have ever met before. You'd be surprised how many times we start a neighborhood watch and we find people who live there for 5-10 years, and when we have that first neighborhood watch meeting, that's their first time meeting some of the people that they've lived next door to all their life. So it's a great way to bring our communities together. And when you have that feeling of connectedness, it does translate into a tangible feeling of safety in your community as well. And I think, as I've mentioned ad nauseum, it is totally free of charge as well. So it's a program with all upside as far as I can tell. So how do you start a neighborhood watch? Very simple process. So reach out to me. My contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation. But contact me so that you can request a consultation. We'll talk about some of the issues that have been going on in your neighborhood, and we'll designate your neighborhood watch area. We want to designate a specific neighborhood watch area. Generally, when we do a neighborhood watch, it's usually by the street. So just to throw an example out there, so if you wanted to start a Mississauga Road neighborhood watch, you would mostly focus on Mississauga Road. But if you do have the capacity to involve the other streets in your community, if they're adjacent, totally open to that as well. But it's important to designate the watch area, one, so I know where to put the signs for your community, but also because you're going to need to do some canvassing and outreach in your community. So you'll need to get people in your neighborhood to participate in the program. And so we'll need to get at least 20 of your fellow neighbors to join this program and provide an email so we can get that neighborhood watch started. It's important to have a team lead for each neighborhood watch because they're going to help bridge that gap between myself and your community so we can make sure that your crime prevention and community safety needs are being addressed. And of course, you'll always have that support from crime prevention practitioners like myself and Mike Wood and everyone else from Peel Region Police. So if you're interested in starting a neighborhood watch, my contact information is here on the screen. Again, I've been saying neighborhood watch a lot, but this is still easily just as applicable to the business watch program. So if you are a business owner in Mississauga, you're working in a plaza or on a main street or something, happy to connect with you as well to start a business watch as well. And if you're a parent on the call and you've got kids in secondary schools in Mississauga, we also have a brand new school watch program. Same principles as our neighborhood watch programs, but a slightly different twist in terms of the educational content you'll have accessible to the students. It's more relevant in that youth context. So things like youth life skills training, how to graduate, volunteer opportunities, etc. So if you do have youth interested in that program, have them contact, or you can contact Lauren Kinney, our youth services manager, at the email below. I'll put all our contact information in the chat box. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me after the presentation as well. So that's it for my presentation. And I think Detective Korslick is next. So I'll stop sharing and then I'll move us on to the next one. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Gerald.
No problem.
Thanks for joining us, Gerald. So yeah, just like Gerald said, myself and Gerald, we partner on a lot of different projects and try to share information. So the Neighborhood Watch is a connection with Peel Regional Police. And Gerald will often ask me questions about what's happening in certain neighborhoods, and then I'm just able to provide some feedback there. So we'll go ahead and let Detective Constable Korslick go ahead with her presentation.
Thanks, Rowena. So my name is Detective Constable Erin Korslick. I work in the 11 Division Auto Theft Unit. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about what we do on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, we're responsible for all of the auto theft within 11 Division. And there's a few other things that we do on top of that, but I'm just going to kind of give you guys the Coles notes because I know I looked over the questions and obviously there's a lot of concerns about the volume of auto thefts. There's been a huge increase over the last year, so that's definitely something that's a concern that we're well aware of, and I just wanted to give you guys more of a background about what it is we're doing about it and what we do on a day-to-day basis. So first off, Peel Police has auto theft units within each division. So that would be 11 and 12, 21 and 22 division. And then as well, we have a commercial auto theft unit, meaning sort of like a regional auto theft unit. So they're responsible for different types of crimes, of course, auto thefts as well, but they certainly focus more on the organized crime, tractor trailer thefts and load thefts and things like that. So again, I work just within the divisional auto theft unit at 11 Division. So on a day-to-day basis, of course, we're managing literally at this point hundreds and hundreds of reports or tasks, as we call them. So they're generally divided up by zones. So for example, I'd be responsible for maybe 4 or 5 zones where anybody whose car is stolen in that area, those tasks all come to me. So I will read over every single one of those reports eventually. So day to day, I mean, there's a lot of follow-up phone calls, a lot of follow-up for video. Luckily now, as Mike Wood mentioned, we do have avoidance.com, which is really helpful because people can just email us the video. So we're not having to chase people down and give them USBs and things like that. There is still quite a bit of follow-up, but it's become more efficient for sure. And then a lot of what we do and what we've been doing lately is, surveillance. Like if we're out in the community, we're dressed in plain clothes, we're not wearing a uniform, we're in plain clothes unmarked vehicles, so you're not going to see us necessarily or know who we are, and that's a good thing. We don't want anybody to know who we are because obviously we're doing surveillance for a reason. So a lot of times we're working on projects targeting organized groups. That's pretty much all we've done for the last couple of years because as everybody knows, auto thefts have become so prolific and there's multiple, I would say hundreds of groups involved at this point. So our goal, of course, is to target the biggest fish, and that requires a lot of time and resources. So a lot of our day is just whether we're working on a specific project, doing surveillance, or maybe paperwork in relation to that, writing warrants. A lot of time is consumed now writing judicial authorizations to get video surveillance from more private areas like parking garages and things like that. A lot of the buildings won't just hand us over video anymore, so we've got to write warrants to get that video. So that type of stuff. So that's kind of what we do day to day. I wanted to go over, I know this has come up in the questions multiple times and I can reiterate if there's a specific question, but I wanted to go over prevention. So obviously preventing your vehicle from being stolen in the first place. So I'm just going to ask that Constable Mike Wood share. Perfect. He's on the ball. So I'm going to read off this card. These are cards that you may or may not have seen before. We've delivered them at times. We have done door to door, like they would be a different card than this, but we've done door hangers in the past where we've literally gone door to door and hung up similar cards on people's doors or windows with the same type of information. So here are some tips. Actually, first of all, as you can see, there's 5 vehicles at the top there. Those are all the top 5 most targeted vehicles within the last couple of years. Having said that, I've seen many more high-end vehicles lately being stolen. Anything from, well, actually the Range Rovers are up there, the Land Rovers, of course. The Dodge Rams as well have become a target lately. But those I'd say are the top 5, the ones that you see there. So having said that, though, any, I would say, newer vehicle could potentially be targeted, certainly by the organized crime groups. I have seen multiple older vehicles stolen more in crimes of opportunity, like, for example, a warm-up theft, which is another thing I'll touch on. But these vehicles here and these tips are generally in relation to your higher end vehicles where these organized crime groups are targeting. So, of course, we've mentioned multiple times, if you can, park your vehicle in a garage. Of course, everyone does not have that opportunity. If you don't have a garage, or let's say you just don't have enough space, you could park an additional vehicle that you have in front of your vehicle that's more likely to be targeted. So if, let's say, you've got an older Toyota Corolla and a brand new Lexus RX 350, park the Lexus up closer to the garage and then the other vehicle in behind it. Like Constable Mike Wood said, many of these crimes, even though they're organized groups, they are still crimes of opportunity, because at the end of the day, if the opportunity doesn't present itself, or if it's just a little bit more difficult for the person to execute the crime, then they're going to move on to the next one. These vehicles are a dime a dozen. There's many of them out there, so they'll just move on to another home. So those are the two big ones, especially the garage. Like, I don't think I've ever seen one of these vehicles stolen from within, and I'm talking about a residential garage. Of course, a parking garage in a building is different because they can have access to that, but I'm talking about a residential garage. So the next one is using a steering wheel lock device. So that's like a club. Those are a huge deterrent because they're difficult to remove, they're time consuming to remove, and at the end of the day, these vehicles are being stolen, and then they're being sold and most likely shipped overseas and sold at a much higher cost. So they don't want to damage the vehicle, and removing those steering wheel lock devices sometimes will cause damage. So those are a huge deterrent and something very inexpensive that you can install. I know a lot of people have outdoor security camera systems. I also know that a lot of people have concerns about the fact that, you know, they feel like, oh, well, I saw some comments and questions in the spreadsheet about, well, what's the point of having, you know, security? Trust me, it's very helpful. Even if, you know, the culprits are wearing masks, or, you know, let's say dressed all in dark clothing, or you can't really see, just having the time frame on video is extremely helpful to us when we're following up, because a lot of times, you know, after the fact, for example, we did a project a couple years ago where we identified a group from Montreal. They were traveling here to steal vehicles, and then we ended up writing multiple search warrants to their cell phones to determine the times that they were in those areas, and we could match up the video surveillance with the exact time the car was stolen, the tower location it bounced off of, and their cell phone. So video is helpful in so many ways. Sometimes, yes, it's great, and it identifies a person for us, or it identifies another vehicle for us that they're using. But sometimes it's just something as simple as giving us that specific time frame of when the vehicle was taken. So it is very useful. Make sure, if you do have video, that there's some sort of light, either like a lot of the newer cameras, especially those Nest and Ring cameras, those are really great. Some of the older systems, if you could install a motion light with them, that would be helpful, because some of the older ones, it's a little bit hard to see. And then, so that sort of touches on the next point about making sure the property is well lit. So of course, a lot of these vehicles come with GPS tracking. Unfortunately, these criminals, the first thing they do if they steal a vehicle that's equipped with GPS tracking is they generally remove it. Specifically with the Range Rovers, it's very easy to be just sort of cut out of the back, and that's something that they do right away. So installing aftermarket products is very, very helpful. I've seen a lot of success with Apple AirTags. Apple AirTags are very tiny. If you're not familiar with them, they're about the size of a quarter, and you can hide them anywhere in the vehicle. I have seen it lately a couple of times where the criminal has obviously located it and discarded it, but both of those circumstances, the AirTag wasn't hidden very well. One time it was in a glove box and one time it was just in the trunk. If you do have an AirTag, or you could even put two of them, that's another option, because the way the AirTags work is once you've installed it and you've installed the app on your phone, as soon as that vehicle moves, you as the AirTag owner will get a notification that the AirTag's moved, and you'll receive a GPS location with where it is. If another person with an iPhone is near, like within a certain proximity of the vehicle, they will also receive a notice, not of where the vehicle is, but that there's an AirTag nearby. So yes, there is potential for the person who took the car to know that there's an AirTag in there. But like I said before, these people are professionals. They're also looking to do this quickly. So they may pull off to the side of the road and quickly look for the AirTag, but if it's hidden really, really well and they can't find it, then 9 times out of 10, they're just going to leave the vehicle there and abandon it and walk away. And we've seen that lately, where we've been recovering more vehicles that are just abandoned on random side streets, probably because they think maybe they do have a tracking device and they don't want to be associated to it. So those have been really helpful. And then, of course, don't leave your fobs in the vehicle or close to the vehicle. Essentially, if you don't know already, I know this information has been made kind of public, but the way that these thieves are taking the cars is generally they're entering the car through the rear or the front driver's side door. They're able to defeat the alarms fairly easily just by sort of using a screwdriver underneath the door handle. Once they're in, there's different ways that they can reprogram a key fob, but essentially they're bringing an aftermarket key fob with them, and then they're just reprogramming it. So your key fob will no longer work, and they'll reprogram their own fob and they'll just drive away with the car. They can do that by using your VIN number, which is why it's important to cover your VIN. They can also sometimes do it without that, just using different apps. So keeping the fobs away will help if they are trying to disrupt the signal. And then another way to store them is in a Faraday box. Constable Wood talked about that. Those used to be something that was a little more commonly used years ago, but technology's advanced, so they are helpful for disrupting the signal again. But if you just keep your fob far from the vehicle, then if they're going to use that technology, it probably won't work. And then the last point, of course, be aware of suspicious vehicles in your area. Like the people that are stealing the cars, they don't have, a lot of people have been concerned about, them getting lists from dealerships. We have never seen any evidence of that in the 5 years that I've been in the auto theft unit. They're literally just driving around and finding cars and making lists, like shopping lists, and then coming back and taking those cars at night when people are sleeping. So if you're seeing the same sort of vehicles in your neighborhood that you believe are suspicious, call us and report it. So that's it for the prevention tips. Thank you, Mike. So I think we're going to go into questions now, because most of the information that I have came up in the questions, so I prefer just to do it that way and answer them directly.
Thanks so much, Detective Korslick, for that presentation. So I think we'll head on to the Q&A portion, keeping within the time. I know everybody has things to do this evening, so we'll try and keep it to the time. So the first question is actually for Gerald. If Gerald's able to come back on there, I'll give him a second. And the question that was submitted is, what is required to form a neighborhood watch, and do you provide guidance, training, or any format to follow? I know you covered some in your presentation, but some people have logged off and on, so if you don't mind just answering that one.
Yeah. So to start a neighborhood watch, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat box as well. Basically, to start a neighborhood watch, reach out to me. We'll schedule a consultation session so we can, again, determine which area you're going to cover in your neighborhood watch, because that's going to help us determine the next step of how to go about canvassing, getting people signed up, because that's the main hurdle to cross when starting neighborhood watch is getting people signed up. So we usually we keep the bar at around 20 residents to start your neighborhood watch. But the more people in your watch, the more effective it's going to be. So 20 is our minimum, but the more people, the more the merrier. So long story short, you want to start neighborhood watch, reach out to me. We'll go over the process together, and then we'll create a canvassing strategy for you as well. So I'll drop my contact information in the chat box, and hopefully we can connect soon.
Thanks, Gerald, for that answer. So the chat box, just in case you're not familiar, is just going to be in the bottom right-hand screen there. And you should be able to see his details. If you have any issues trying to see Gerald's contact, feel free to email me. I'll put my email just in that chat as well. But it's 3773@peelpolice.ca. So we'll go ahead with the next question. This is going to be for Constable Wood. And it's, what should we residents do if we are in a carjacking situation? And should we protect ourselves?
In the last, I guess, few months, probably at the summertime, it was becoming more prevalent that car thieves were utilizing carjacking as a violent crime in order to obtain some of these more luxury vehicles, because the key's right there, the vehicle's right there. It's less work for them to remove somebody from that vehicle, or take the opportunity if somebody is approaching their vehicle, knowing that they may have the keys, or as soon as they just unlock, and to approach them there. So it was happening, unfortunately, in different regions. So it was a kind of a joint force. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a screen here going. So within several different police agencies got together. You may have seen some of these cards. We've been handing them out. So if you came down to the crime prevention booths, this information's online too. I'll show you as well. But unfortunately, since 2019, there has been an increase in that. And that's just a depicting of one of the videos that you may have saw on like some of the news agencies out there. So these individuals stealing a couple cars, got in their own car accidents, and had to get out and carjack another car to get away from the scene. Now, in this particular circumstance, it's very traumatic, very scary, but ultimately your goal is to get home to your loved ones safe. These individuals are looking for the car; they're not looking for you. Who's to say that they don't have some type of weapon on them, whether it be an edge weapon like a knife, a blunt object, or even a gun? Right? So for somebody to fight back, you're causing more resistance to that person trying to steal your car, and you don't want something to happen. Ultimately, our kind of suggestion is to provide them with a vehicle. I know it's your hard-earned money, and I know it's something that's a hard pill to swallow. And it's, oh, police are just saying this, I'm gonna fight them off. But ultimately, it's important that you get home safe. That if you have any loved ones in the vehicle, you want to have them exit, because you don't want any sort of risk to their safety. Ultimately, it's a safety issue where comply with their demands. If it's a situation where they're demanding the keys from you, articulate what you're doing. Okay, I'm going in my pocket and getting the keys. No sudden movements or anything like that, because it may spook the individual. You don't know what their motivation is. You don't know if they're, have to be under any sort of substance, illegal substance at that particular time while they're committing these crimes. It's really undetermined, right? Their motivation is to get that vehicle at any means necessary. And if that's going through you, it may well be. So in protection of yourself and anybody, and getting yourself home to your loved ones, it's definitely important that you just unfortunately comply with their demands. If you go again to the Peel Police website, I unfortunately got rid of it for some reason. But if you go on Peel Police website, under that safety tips option as well, there is a section for carjacking that it comes a little more detailed information as to kind of some suggestions or some options to consider when it comes to carjackings just alone. Not to mention the other safety tips like I talked about, but I think I'll share it here or there. You should have it now there. So in the carjacking section, other important kind of recommendations too is that when you're parking a vehicle, or when you're approaching a vehicle, say if you're in that parking lot from the grocery store or the mall, be assertive. Walk with a purpose. be aware of your surroundings, see who's around, see who's following, see who's looking towards you or towards your vehicle. It's definitely important that you kind of be a little more vigilant as to not just, a lot of us, we got things going on, right? We got to think about the safety. We got to get home to our kids. We got a job to worry about. We got stresses in our lives, but our personal safety shouldn't take a backseat to, to all this, because it's important that we were able to do this by recognizing, our own safety. So other options too is reversing your vehicle into a space if you have the opportunity to do so, because you can see more while you're not, backing out. It also protects you from potential risk of motor vehicle collisions, because you see a lot of those in parking lots where two people are backing up. But when you're getting into your vehicle, have your fob or your key ready in hand so that you're not taking that extra time to search through it through a bag or a purse, or which pocket did I put it in. You're patting yourself down. So those are kind of some good tips in relation to like approaching your vehicle if you were at a static position. But at any point, you may see somebody that's stranded on the side of the road. It has happened too, where they've distracted you, and you get out to help, and they hop in your vehicle and gone. So that's another thing that has happened. It's not common, but it's potential something that can happen. Other things too, when it comes to motor vehicle collision, if you're being bumped from behind, or a minor motor vehicle collision, be aware that some of these criminals have used this in order to obtain your vehicle. So you want to, if you're going to pull off and exchange information, just do that in a public area, in a well-lit area. You don't want to be in a situation where you're leaving your vehicle vulnerable. And I think Detective Korslick already talked about it. Don't leave your vehicle running unattended. So if you do happen to get out for whatever reason, don't leave it running. Okay, turn it off every time you get out and get back in. So that's some information. Again, you can talk about. That you can read up on under the safety tip section in relation to carjackings.
Thanks, Constable Wood. Great answer. We're going to go on to Detective Constable Korslick for the next question. And I know you covered a little bit in your presentation, but what is the police actively doing to address the issue? It seems every time I talk to someone I know who had a car stolen, it doesn't seem like police are doing anything.
Yes, thank you, Rowena. So, a few things that we're doing. I mean, obviously, meetings like this are extremely helpful to educate the public. So, I've talked about this in the past at these meetings. Really, what we need to do is, because there's been such an increase in vehicle thefts. I mean, we've seen almost a 200% increase in the last, I would say, about year and a half, which is huge. So the reason that's happening is sort of for another discussion, but the point is, we need to obviously take some control of it, and help the citizens and the public protect themselves, and then we're able to do our job a little bit easier. So it's a dual approach of us, of course, doing what we do, and then informing the public so that you're not a victim. You're not a victim of this crime of opportunity. So meetings like this are helpful. We've been using the Quebec signs. So you might see tips on the signs. And again, they're just reminders of some of the things that I told you earlier that were on that card. We're going to be doing another door-to-door walk with uniform officers and auxiliary officers to hand out the door hangers. Again, those will be helpful tips on prevention tips. We've done a press release recently, and those are common anytime either we want to reiterate prevention tips, or if we've had, like recently, I know there was an article. I don't know if there was a press release for this one, but there was certainly a few articles regarding the success of one of the recent projects. And then we're always on like Twitter and TikTok. So again, there's education put out that way. As far as what we're doing on our end, like the police end, like I said, we're clearly well aware of the issue. We've run multiple projects, like undercover projects, and multi-jurisdictional projects so we work with other police jurisdictions like the OPP, Toronto, York. and those things are happening right now. And I know it's discouraging to see, you know, the numbers or to talk to neighbors and things like that and hear about all of this. But the only thing you need to worry about is protecting yourself by incorporating some of those tips that I talked about earlier.
Thanks, Detective Constable Korslick. The next question is for Constable Wood. We have video surveillance around the house. If anything takes place, do the police really follow through with the footage?
So that question, yes, definitely. So I mentioned it earlier, and Detective Korslick also mentioned as well how invaluable that video footage is. It's they require it to putting pieces of puzzles together. It may not be a situation where facial features may not be fully identifiable, but when it comes to clothing, when it comes to maybe vehicles associated to individuals that they're utilizing, it can definitely put some pieces together. And then when it comes to eventual, I know there's a, a comment in the chat in relation to the judicial system. That's a whole separate conversation that we can have. But police are doing their best to try to get these culprits and get them prosecuted, right? So, without that evidence, they can't do much with it, right? So, definitely the new option of that evidence.com and providing that link and providing that video is a far more easy and seamless way of providing that information to police so that they can have it and work on that. It definitely does get worked on. It gets viewed because they need to put these together. That's the unit, the detectives in those units. And I was just speaking with somebody. Unfortunately, they couldn't be on the call today. Officers in the break and enter unit at 11 Division, they're working on a project right now, so they couldn't make the call and provide some of the information I was talking about. But again, that's something that they wanted to address as well. Having providing good video surveillance is definitely helps them with their investigation. I'll just kind of an aside to kind of similar to what Aaron was talking about. And somebody had mentioned that suspicious activity within their community. It's definitely important that you report it. So like leaving it to talking with a couple neighbors. I'm on the Nextdoor app, and in my community, it's more about what coyotes have been seen and everything like that. And it's sometimes you see those suspicious activities or somebody reporting auto theft. And I know that I can guarantee you they never been to a presentation like this, or they don't have the information that's readily available to them when it comes to some of the kind of the information that they're talking about. But still, it's important that you report these suspicious activities to police, because even talking with the officers, or Detective Constable Breston, his extension's 1154, and he's more than willing to speak to people if they see suspicious vehicles. He's told me to tell you, they've noticed a trend where it's larger type vehicles that if you know your neighbors and you see like an SUV or a larger vehicle that's parked in your neighbor's driveway, that's suspicious. Oftentimes these B&E people doing B&Es, they work in groups. It's not just usually one person, like I talked about it. They work in groups, so it'll be 2 or 3 to the door while one person's waiting in the vehicle, in the getaway vehicle, and they're gone in and out in a minute or two. So it's very important that if you're able to obtain license plates, and like Gerald said, we're not going to suggest that you be vigilantes or be police officers and try to intervene. But if you're able to get a license plate, great. Information on a vehicle, descriptions. If you have video surveillance of something suspicious, definitely officers want to know about that so that they can potentially piece information and evidence together.
Thanks, Michael Wood. I'm just going to jump to the chat here because it's not a question we've had before. This would be for Detective Constable Korslick. How is it best to hide a VIN, and how is this hidden if someone enters the vehicle?
I was actually just reading that. I was going to reply, but
awesome.
I can obviously reply to everybody, so that's good. So with the VIN, I was talking specifically about obviously like just using a piece of paper or something, but that I was talking about preventing them from getting into the vehicle in the first place, because some of the technology that they have now will use the VIN in order to access and then reprogram the vehicle. If they're able to get into the vehicle and then still they require the VIN, so they would obviously then just be able to, you know, move the whatever it is that you have covering it, say piece of paper or something, out of the way. I'm not aware of like anything that you could permanently have to cover up the VIN, like any device or anything like that. But that's something that could potentially be sold aftermarket. I know a lot of auto theft prevention gear is being sold on Amazon and things like that. Like we had mentioned in our card, the aftermarket GPS, or there's even the aftermarket kill switches now. So you can buy those on Amazon for fairly cheap. So basically, it stops the vehicle, you know, without you being in it. It's done remotely with your phone. So that type of technology. But as far as the VIN goes, I just meant for like prior to the person accessing the vehicle, you would cover it.
Great, thanks, Korslik, for explaining that. The last question for Gerald, if he's still on, is any possibility if the police alongside the counselor's office arrange a neighborhood get-together twice a year in each community park so neighbors network with each other, and that will make the crime prevention as the neighbors know each other? Maybe that could stop car theft.
Yeah, so community events like that are a big part of the neighborhood program. Work very closely with communities to help them organize social events like that. We call them neighbors night out events. But we can also find different ways to engage the community. So it doesn't always have to be like a big like street block party neighbors night out. Like I mentioned earlier, Constable Price and I have been known to, you know, walk with communities and visit them on their driveways. Or sometimes, you know, I'll do a septet visit with the community to see if there are like issues like broken streetlights, and counselors have been known to join me for that too. I did one just a couple weeks ago with Councillor Butt in Ward 11 as well. So lots of different ways that we can work together to connect your neighborhood with the relevant parties, again, to find those community safety concerns. So yes, neighborhood watch is a great way to create that opportunity for you guys. Yeah.
Thanks, Gerald. And we have some time for a couple more questions. I'm going to pass it over to Constable Wood. This question is there a public website to view criminal activity in any given area? I'm from the Clarkson and Lakeshore area.
The answer is yes. So definitely, I've kind of talked about it and directed everybody towards it during this this community meeting. But definitely, if you go to peelpolice.ca, you go to the right-hand side in those drop downs. It's in the community. Drop it down to crime statistics and maps. Not only will it give you the statistics of different criminalities within the past years, but if you click on that blue button, it will open up that crime mapping tool. And definitely, it'll take a little time to just play around with it, figure it out. Like I said, it's changed within the last month or so. It gives you information on you know, homicides in the area, robberies, break and enters, auto theft. Now there's a new option of drugs, so drug possession, drug trafficking, frauds. So those are like the drugs and the fraud are new. The mischiefs there. They removed, I believe, theft from autos. I don't know exactly why, but I believe it's just because they're not being reported accurately. You think of it like an iceberg. I've talked to several residents who unfortunately may have got something stolen from their vehicle. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to report it. I'm not going to waste my time, or I'm not going to waste police time because they're not going to investigate it. It's still important that if anything happens, any sort of criminality, that it is reported. There's different avenues to report it. You don't necessarily have to call 911. You don't necessarily have to call the non-emergency line. Now, if it's something without any suspect information, you got something stolen from your vehicle overnight, you may not have video evidence of it, you can report that online. It's easy enough to go to peelpolice.ca/report it, and you have to fill out a couple fields. Obviously, your information, the information of the vehicle, what happened, a little synopsis to it, and within a couple days, an officer will call you back, and then you'll get a temporary report number originally, and you get a full report number. But definitely, if you haven't already, it's very important that you check out peelpolice.ca. There's tons of information there. Just take a look, take some time, and the crime mapping tool is pretty interesting when you start playing around with it and to see what type of criminality is happening in different areas.
Thanks, Constable Wood. And just one last question for Detective Constable Korslik. Somebody wrote in and said, how can I prevent vehicle thefts apart from parking in the garage? would a steering wheel lock help? What's the best option if they were to pick one option, in your opinion?
Yeah, if you don't have the option to park in the garage, like I said before, parking a second vehicle directly behind your higher end vehicle would be a great option because having to move a vehicle in order to steal it is going to be a huge deterrent. And I would say the best deterrent next to that is a steering wheel lock device. They're fairly inexpensive, they're difficult to remove. I shared a video last year when we did this meeting of actual footage of somebody that we arrested that was again part of an organized group. He got into a vehicle, realized there was a steering wheel lock device, and then just left it because it's just too difficult to remove without damaging the steering wheel. So that's probably the best option.
Thanks, Detective Constable Korslick. So that concludes our meeting this evening. I just wanted to thank all of the panelists for coming out tonight and making time to get this information out to the members of our community. So Gerald, Constable Wood, Detective Constable Korslick, thank you very much. I know the comments in the chat were pretty positive, and they learned a lot tonight and got some valuable tips. Aside from that, I know there were some questions about making this WebEx available through video. So it should be available within the next week or so, or if you'd like a transcription of tonight's information, I can also provide that to you. So just give me a little bit of time and hopefully I can get that out, and then maybe Gerald as well can share it with his community contacts. Aside from that, I know Constable Wood mentioned it, but please follow us on social media. It's the best way to get this information. I know Constable Wood makes tons of videos with how different, he says no, but he does make a lot of videos.
I need more impressions on Twitter, so I need some more followers on Crime Prev. So tell your friends. And again, it's a lot of information. It's useful information that to keep yourself and your loved ones safe.
Right, so you can follow him at PRP Crime Prev, or at Peel Police on Twitter and at Peel Regional Police on Facebook and Instagram. So please follow us there. And I just wanted to extend my regrets from Superintendent Kennedy. He tried really hard to get on tonight. I know he wanted to do some opening and closing remarks to let you know that he is aware of these issues as well, and that we are working together to combat all of the concerns that everybody has. So again, thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to the ASL interpreters. You had a very difficult job tonight. I'm sure you're exhausted. So thank you for coming, and we apologize for speaking so fast. Thanks everyone for coming out and making time with us, and hopefully you can join us at our next meeting. Just a quick thing before we go, anyone who had issues logging on, even if it's negative feedback, please email me and let me know so we can iron out those details. For future WebExes, what usually happens is we will promote it if you follow us on social media, and then you usually have a week or two to register online. That link goes out through our contact list. So if you know anybody who would like to join our contact list, please let us know. And if you did not receive a link, please let me know as well, so that I can get that out to you for the next time. Again, thanks everybody and have a great night.